I want to talk briefly about gear. When I first started learning jazz, I had a hard time because I was using the same gear that I used for rock and metal. And I think it's really important to get a good sound and play gear that supports learning this type of material. In my case, this is a heritage guitar that works great for me. It's called the H575, and it plays very nice, and I have no problem going back and forth between this and a solid body guitar. It wasn't until I switched to a hollow body guitar for jazz that it really started to come together. So it doesn't mean that you only have to play a guitar with F-holes and a big body, but it helps, especially for your jazz playing. So I recommend you check one out, whether it's a Heritage or another company. The strings I use are D'Addario's, and they're size 13. 13 is a pretty heavy gauge. There's a lot of jazz players that play 12s. There's some that even play 11s. It's very rare to play lighter strings than that. It's one of the characteristics of jazz guitar is that it has a thick sound. And to be able to get that sound, it really helps to have thick strings. So I recommend you have thick strings. I use really small picks made by Jim Dunlop. The Jazz 3 is the blueprint for these picks. I have a special version of them. I think picks are really subjective. It depends on who's playing. Some people like big picks, some people like small picks, but in general, smaller picks tend to be popular among jazz players. The amp I use is a Buddha amp. I started using this only in the last year, and it's got a really warm sound. It's back there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's very easy to use. There aren't too many tone controls. One of the biggest challenges with getting a good jazz guitar sound is avoiding feedback. Because the jazz guitar is basically an acoustic instrument that you plug in, the chances for feedback are very high, and you need an amp that works with the archtop guitar and where you have control of feedback. So the Buddha is great for that. And finally, I just want to talk about my pedals. I don't use all these pedals all the time, but I find that a volume pedal is really important, especially when I'm playing with the band. Dynamics are one of the most important characteristics of jazz. And with the volume pedal, it's very easy for me to play quiet and not play loud all the time. Because it's a very different vehicle than playing jazz than playing rock. I use a ADA flange pedal once in a while, not all the time, but kind of gives me a sound like this. It's fun to throw in there. I also use a little bit of a delay. This is a Boss Giga delay pedal. And then finally, once in a while, I'll use an Ibanez tube screamer for distortion. But that's not really jazz. That's when we want to spice things up at the end of the show. So that's the gear I use, but I encourage you to really take a look at your setup and try to play through a rig that is good for jazz playing, and I think you'll go a lot farther fast.